South.
The 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't work on a flat Earth. On a flat Earth, you can't have a 24-hour sun, a midnight sun in Antarctica. And I totally agree.
In the flat Earth model, we say there isn't a 24-hour sun in the south, and there isn't.
I wanted to make sure people know that if you're one of these people that is sitting at home in your mother's basement, I'm quite sure. I went to Antarctica, period. It's not a question. I stood on the ice. Okay? I filmed the entire thing. I shivered my fucking balls off in the cold. And I'd like to say I nearly lost a toe, but I did not. That's not true. But I mean, it was cold. Let's put it that way. And if you're just somebody who's sitting at a computer and think that you have uncovered some master plot, you have not. I don't know how else to explain it to you. Put down the bottles of Jerkins, please. Put down the AE map. Come back to reality. Let's get something straight that just because you spend, doing who knows what you're doing, but you're probably photoshopping pictures and things like that, doesn't mean that that's what I do. I don't have any time to doctor video footage. We weren't in front of a green screen, as was clearly shown and proven over and over again. I was there. I was bundled up, and I was there to observe something because, and I don't understand what happened to the flat Earth community. Everybody knew originally what it meant if the 24-hour sun was seen. And then everybody just switched because they're not into actual evidence and research and actual proof and evidence. They're into something else entirely altogether. Let me show you this. This is Sov, who was talking to Will Duffy a while back. But Sov knew what was going on. Listen to Sov here. And he's just changed his mind, of course, because, if you're a flat earther, you don't want flat Earth to be debunked, so you'll just change your mind and say, oh, no, it's not actually debunked. That's completely wrong. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that's completely wrong. Let's watch this real quick. Just the beginning
in
here.
That place.
And I'll kind of comment through it.
Whether you're on a globe or whether you're on a flat, you are going to be south of the Tropic of Capricorn.
So hopefully people follow along here. We were south of the Tropic of Capricorn. Does that make sense? Tropic of Capricorn's down there, Australia. The southern tropic is the limit of where the sun goes. We were south of that.
You're going to be south of the furthest zenith position that the sun makes.
Correct.
So you are going to have to look north to see the sun.
Well,
and it would be real simple that as it traverses to the west,
right,
if it arcs in a west by northwesterly direction at all, you're not on a globe. If it arcs around, if it starts to track, you don't even have to see it for 24 hours. All you have to do is watch which way it tracks. If it goes west by northwest, you're gonna be on you're on.
And that's what I thought it would do.
If it's going past you in a west by southwest direction, in other words, angling off to this way,
right,
arcing around you, then you're definitely on a globe.
Then you're definitely on a globe.
So I don't even think it would be necessary to see it for 24 hours just to track that little bit of arc.
So just notice he said we would definitely be on a globe because that has now changed. Everybody's changing their minds now. And I'm the one who's getting the shit for it when I've been on the same page from day one. I've always known what the 24-hour sun would do to the flat Earth. I've always known that it must be fake. It has to be fake down there. It has to be a lie. Or else the flat Earth isn't true. That's why I wanted to go. But all these people have decided to change their mind.
We do not have a 24-hour sun in the south.
The 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't work on a flat Earth. On a flat Earth, you can't have a 24-hour sun, a midnight sun in Antarctica. And I totally agree.
In the flat Earth model, we say there isn't a 24-hour sun in the south, and there isn't.
There is no midnight sun in Antarctica.
When we landed, they picked up.
So the truth is that there is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. The people I've seen on TikTok who are just going around slandering my name and saying there is no 24-hour sun. When you say that, you are implying that I went down there and lied. Do you understand that? That's your implication. Why? I don't know. But you don't just get to throw other people under the bus, call them liars because your religion dictates that it must be so. It's not the way that it works. Okay? So we need dipshits that are sitting at their house and just arguing with each other to realize the trip was real and then to move past it. Get to the next step, which is figure it out. Okay, arguing for months and months about whether it was real or not is not getting you anywhere. Okay, the real tragedy here is that the flat Earth itself is imploding over something as simple as my trip. A 4-day trip, documented, that anyone with a functional brainstem could actually verify, but nope. These lunatics would rather believe that I was bribed by the Illuminati, or that I'm now a Freemason, or that I took money from Duffy or whatever, the lizard people, or I got an Antarctic timeshare or something. I don't know. But people need a hobby. You need to. This is what happened to the flat Earth years ago, that we stopped having people who cared about getting to the crux of everything. We just deny anything that it goes against our model. Say it's not true, just dismiss it, or that it doesn't matter. I mean, look at these terms that have come up that are just placeholders. For instance, saying that the lights in the sky don't prove the ground is simply because the lights in the sky prove the ground. Do you understand that? The lights in the sky are the proof of where we live. And so, of course, Flat Earth has to say, well, the lights in the sky don't prove where we live. Well, of course you have to say that, because you can't explain anything that's going on in the sky, so just dismiss it altogether. So these are just little moves to the next thing that they can get to the next thing, get to the next thing. So I guess what I don't understand is if it's fake. Dave Weiss was, with Marty, said, oh, they get behind the plane at noon and they change the sun out or something. It's ludicrous. People in Punta Arenas would be able to see the sun. So how did they not see two suns? How do we magically place one sun in the sky while the other one's not seen? Wouldn't that sun set? Couldn't we see that from the plane? The sun's going off to this northwest and setting. So it doesn't even make sense. It's like all the flights are not the same time. Remember, it's 24 hours of sun down there. So I looked, and there was flights that went at 11 p.m. because the sun's in the south. They can fly there. So I hope you guys hear yourself, though, calling everything fake. It's like, is every flight to Antarctica faked? Is every single base that's there faked? Dave described it as if you could just take a laser and shine it in the sky around us in Antarctica. He forgets that there's an entire continent. There's bases there, people there. They would all see that if they're within the proximity that where you can see it. So I guess the question is that I used to be part of that club, okay? And I wanted to believe in this thing. I really did. Like I said a million times, the flat Earth is perfect to me. The way it's laid out, the way it operates, it just seemed right, okay? But when you start eating your own, attacking your own, because I had the audacity to say yes to somebody who offered a free trip. I went there. I filmed it. I survived. Yes. Well, then you're a cult. Okay. And let me explain it even more carefully. If you are somebody who doesn't allow somebody to leave without gang stalking them and sending the most insane, irrational, nonsensical messages to somebody that include death threats, that include what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to me here, you're a cult. I mean, you need to admit that to yourselves, that if you're going to destroy somebody because they no longer believe what you do, that is a cult. It is. I don't know what else to tell you. That's what it is. So don't be part of that. Be open to let people believe what they want. I told everybody in the flat Earth that here's the great thing about me. I'm open to evidence to changing my mind. So simply provide the evidence that I'm looking for, and I'll go right back. The problem is that I now realize that those things that I used to think would eventually come out will never come out. Nobody will ever figure out circumpolar stars in the south. Nobody will ever figure out how the South Pole works in a flat Earth. Nobody will ever figure out sunrise, sunset times on a flat Earth, because it's impossible to map a place on something other than what it is. And for it to match all observations is what I mean. Sure, you can map something on something and then it would be off. It would have mistakes. But as far as the sphere Earth, and we're going to look at that in a little bit, if the sphere is the shape, then when you map the Earth on the sphere, which is what they do, then everything has to match or else it's not correct. Well, guess what? Everything does match. So we've got a problem. Now you can start going on about, are we spinning, Jaron? Are we flying through space? I don't care about any of that. We'll get to that. I'm just worried about, where do I live? Because if I do live on the sphere that I was taught, then I don't need to worry about the rest. I never said that I need to understand gravity, that I need to understand the mechanisms of the universe. I don't think that's on me. Okay? When I thought we were being lied to, I stood up and said, let's point this out. And as more and more evidence gathered, it looked more and more to be true. When they lied about my experiment in the behind the curve, even more proof. When they lied with Stephen Hawking's, even more. Nat Geo, even more. So all these things were what led me to firmly believe 100% that the flat Earth was the truth. Yeah, I know. I just see JSS Tiger. Thank you very much for the super chat. $10 says Dirth now thinks you and Witsit were fooled, and somehow there was some sun magic that got pulled over your eyes. I mean, guys, I just want you to think about that claim and how ridiculous it is. That we went down there and we were fooled by a fake sun. I mean, it's just insanity. It's not Satan. It is the sun. It had the same sunspots. They didn't flip. Well, they flipped upside down, but not mirror flipped. We proved, I mean, that shows that, how about this simple one thing? Just listen to this one thing. When we went there, okay, so imagine you are in Antarctica and you look south. Okay, so you're in Antarctica, you're looking south, and you see the sun. And you find out, where's the sun right now for other people? And they say, oh, it's above my head in Australia. So here's your two options. Wait a second, I'm looking south and I see the sun, and the people in Australia are saying it's above their heads. Well, then either Australia is on the other side of the ball, where the sun's still shining on it, or it's 30,000 miles behind me, and there's a magic sun in the sky that just manifested magically out of nowhere and happens to be placed exactly where the sphere Earth model says it should be. Do you understand how insane that is to be a flat earther at that point? Once you know that the sun is south of you, it's not even possible on a flat Earth. There is no sun that's south of you when you're past the tropic. The sun should be behind you. It's in the north. So this tells you, and I saw somebody else say, well, Jaron, you can't show a sphere Earth model that shows a 24-hour sun. Like, what? Yes, you can. I'll show you. That's why we thought that there wasn't one, is because that is kind of evidence or proof, if you will, if you're going to give it proof, of a sphere Earth. So I was saying before that I think the reason this is happening is that because even though you could go, right, you could go if you want. Again, I granted it's an expensive trip, but I mean, what Dave Weiss did is Dave Weiss cemented the fact that he'll never have to go now, right? Because by saying that it was a trick, that they tricked people, then even if he got funded to go down there and he went down there, he would just say, oh, no, that's a trick. So it's just an easy way out. No, it's just a trick. And then if somebody else went and said, oh, no, I saw it, they would say, oh, no, you were tricked. Do you see how kind of this is setting yourself up for an undebunkable position? You can't be falsified. Same thing with saying Satan did it. If you're going to start allowing that in scientific circles, like Dean Odell has to be removed from the scientific discussion of the shape of the Earth. You don't invoke Satan in a scientific discussion. Sorry. It's just, you can go and argue religion if you want. You can argue whether or not demons exist and the jinn, and whether Satan and his demons are a third of the fallen angels, and if they're able to become sons. That's a separate discussion. It can't be involved in the scientific discussion. So at the end of the day, what's happening here is that you're becoming a cult, and I feel partly responsible. I was part of that. Not necessarily, like, I had a problem with Ranty when Ranty left, and I think I even either did a video or I kind of went off on him at some point saying a bunch of shit. But it was because of the reason that he left, because he basically was doing all these observations, flat Earth observations, and then one time he saw one picture that he didn't even take. It was one photo that made him change over to a globe earther. And I said, that's ridiculous. How could you have all this evidence, and then because of that one photo, you change over? Well, people are comparing that. And I'm like, no, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. He changed his mind based on a photo. I changed my mind based on the accumulation of impossibilities. And there are impossibilities that I thought and was teaching were fake. I said that there is no 24-hour sun in the south, that there is no South Pole. And these things must be so for the Earth to be flat. Now, just because nobody else understood that, I understood it. I completely knew. I never thought I'd go down there. I never thought you would be able to go to Antarctica. I never thought that you'd be able to afford it, even if you could. So when somebody offers that possibility, you're like, yeah, I'll take it. But the flat Earth is becoming a cult, or is a cult, and that's scary. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to see it, because what it seems to be to me, and we're going to look at something in a second, is it seems to be a religious position. Okay? Now, for me, maybe it's easier because I don't have this attachment to religion, that I'm able to look at everything and say, no, this is not right. It doesn't mean there's no God. It doesn't mean any of that. Even though people, I think, tend to think like, oh, if you're a globe believer, you're anti-God or something. Like I said, I think it's amazing if God created a sphere. It doesn't matter what God created. It's still impressive. But the place we live is impressive, whatever it is. So at the end of the day, though, I win, and Flat Earth is losing because I actually went and got to see it. Granted, I feel very lucky and very selfish about doing that, but I knew that by going down there, I would know. I would come back on December 18th, and I would know, or December 17th, whenever I got back, and I would know. So you guys are at home and not doing anything, and then judging others, critiquing others, even though what you're doing is just, you're completely off base. So stop arguing with people on Telegram over and over again, and looking at clouds and saying that the clouds don't match when it's a different day, and not realizing that. I mean, everything that you're doing is just terrible research. You're not looking into anything. You haven't done any research at all. To keep claiming about the cloud cover and not go look at cloud cover and actually look at weather reports. To keep claiming about the temperature and, oh, it was supposed to be windy there and it wasn't windy. No, nobody ever said it's windy there 24/7. That's why they have that camp next to that mountain, so that it kills the wind, because that's not a very everything around that area is just flatness, and the wind comes in crazy. But when it hits that mountain and some other mountains around there. So the worst part is that you guys could go if you wanted to. You could still book a trip. You could still go down there. You could still prove people wrong, but you'll never do that. And I know that even if you did, you're just going to prove what we've said to be true. The trip was 100% legit. Sorry to say, I know you don't want it to be that way. 100%, you will never prove any part of it in any way fake or wrong. Ever.